So it's just gone 5 AM and we're off today to go and fly the South Downs. We've got a bit of work to do this morning beforehand. I'm launching from Lasham. Piers and Nigel Mallender are launching from Parham. I've never flown it before, but should be following them, which should be good fun. They know that place like the back of their hand, whereas I definitely do not. So I've just got some work to do for the next couple of hours while they trailer down there, and hopefully we'll start getting the glider ready at about 8 o'clock. Alkay's flying down in his Ventus as well, but he's going to self-launch. If you can't tell, I'm not a morning person, but I'm thoroughly looking forward to today. See how it goes. It will either go really well, or I will be getting picked out of a field later on. So keeping on the theme of being tired, I forgot to change the mode on my camera and didn't film any rigging or anything. So at the moment we're rolling runway 09 at Lasham, getting a tow behind Russell and the Robin. It's going to take a total of about 2,000 feet. Start the engine just to gain another sort of 500,000 feet, warm the engine up at the same time, because I know for a fact that later on when I want to return I'm going to need to start the engine quite low and I'd like it to fire first time, so warming it up is not going to do it any harm. So I agreed to meet Nigel and Piers around the Harting area, so this was just sort of a high beat of the ridge to try and locate them before we turn around and head for the start, and then these boys will lead me along. Here we are cruising into the start at Harting. I knew what was coming was going to be quite kinetic, so just use the last few seconds to take a breather before we start pushing.
miles away. Gonna get help. No, others on the deck.
And, well, this is where it all started to go wrong. So the boys turned a little bit earlier because they were using barrels. They managed to get a hell of a lead ahead running down here, which meant I was by myself. I was fairly content because we had done it the other way. What I didn't account for is what was coming next. And here we are. This is where every single one of my problems began. So this was a saddle that when we came the other way we jumped over the top of. On the way back, well, as you can see, we're a bit lower. This isn't ideal. I'm not making it over the back. I didn't fancy it. So I decided to go round. And it turns out that this was a much, much bigger mistake than I thought it would be. I thought I'll get a bit of lift here and I'll just cruise across the dead air at the back. And yeah, about that. So at this point we knew that the ridge was semi-wave affected because there was areas that were just dampened, and I got to see this quarry nice and close. Yeah, horrible. Nice field to land in. Field with sheep, can make it work if we have to. Absolute worst case, I can get it down here safely, right below us. This is significantly lower than I ever would have wanted to be here, let alone if I knew how bad it was in hindsight. My absolute goal here was just climb. But speaking to everybody before we flew this ridge, speed is key, and I knew that I could turn speed into height and put it into a field if we needed to, but ultimately low and slow was just going to cause problems, so that's why I kept it at about 75 knots. I know that's exactly where the LS8 flies nicely. I was more than content that if this wasn't working out, the engine was ruled out, I was just going to put the wheel down and turn into one of these fields out on the right hand side. Plenty of them. It's been a long time since I've felt this maxed out in a glider, and actually in hindsight I'm pretty glad I wasn't wearing a heart rate monitor. But also I knew for a fact if I just chilled out, stayed calm, had options, it would all be okay, and lo and behold it was. Having scraped up a little bit of height here, the last thing I wanted to see was these power lines ahead. I knew I had an option to just turn around and climb here if it wasn't going to work out. I had plenty of speed, this bit of ridge was working, no issue. And at this point I was committed. So you'll see here that I'm getting quite a lot of flarm warnings from traffic coming the other way. I cancel them fairly quickly, but I have got a personal rule of thumb that I'll never cancel the warning until I have eyes on the glider in question. Thankfully, a lot of people had Sotec Canopy Flashers fitted, so seeing them head on was quite easy. As you can see ahead, we've got another jump coming up, so I decided it was probably best to climb here rather than death glide and land out in the middle of it. Welcome back to the next ordeal. So this was after the exact gap that we were just talking about crossing, but 2 beats later on. It was heavily wave affected, and I'm actually quite amazed that I didn't hit the deck. So we've got a low climb away here. I wasn't very content with continuing at this point, so my option was try and climb away here. I sort of had a hard deck of at least 50 knots, preferably 60. If it doesn't work, wheel down, land at the bottom of the hill. It was perfectly landable, it was absolutely fine. But perseverance paid off, and climbed away. This was actually on the last beat, and I was looking at the rainfall radar, and I could see that there was a band of rain coming in right upwind, and all that I had in my head was that I needed to climb and start heading home, which is about 30 kilometres to the north, so straight into, or near enough straight into the wind. And having seen what was happening with the ridge, I was actually slightly concerned about starting the engine to get home. So at this point I got very, very preservative, kept as much height in the bag as possible, and pushed for the finish. So the rain's coming in, let's push a little bit harder than I wanted, just to finish effectively and get home.